What if I told you the secret to making a man miss you so deeply that it brings tears to his eyes has nothing to do with chasing him, texting him non-stop, or proving your worth? What if the real power lies in what you stop doing, not what you start doing? Today, we're not talking about manipulation. We're talking about emotional impact, the kind of presence that lingers, the kind of absence that echoes. And when you understand this, you'll never beg for attention again, because he'll be the one missing you. Men don't miss constant communication. They miss emotional experiences. This truth changes everything about how connection, attraction, and longing actually work. Texts, calls, and check-ins may keep someone informed, but they don't keep someone emotionally attached. Emotional experiences do. A man can receive messages all day long and still feel empty, yet go days without hearing from a woman and miss her intensely, if what he felt with her touched something deeper inside him. Constant communication often creates familiarity, not longing. When every thought is shared immediately, when every silence is filled, there's no room for reflection. And reflection is where missing someone begins. Men process emotions differently than women. They often realize what something meant to them only after it's gone or absent. Emotional experiences linger in the mind. Words disappear, but feelings replay. An emotional experience is how you made him feel when he was with you. Did he feel calm, accepted, energized, inspired? Did he feel understood without having to explain himself? Those moments embed themselves quietly. They surface later, usually in silence when he's driving alone, when something reminds him of you, when he laughs and realizes you're not there to share it. That's when missing you hits. Constant communication can actually block this process. When a man always has access to you, he doesn't have to imagine you. He doesn't have to wonder. Wonder is the birthplace of desire. Missing someone requires space to feel the contrast between presence and absence. Emotional experiences give meaning to that space. Without them, silence just feels empty, not emotional. Men also miss how a woman made them feel about themselves. This is crucial. If being with you made him feel capable, respected, appreciated, and emotionally safe, that experience becomes rare. And rare experiences are always missed. A man doesn't cry missing someone because she texted him good morning every day. He cries because she was the place where he felt understood without judgment, strong without pressure, and valued without conditions. When communication is constant but shallow, it loses impact. Emotional experiences require depth, presence, and authenticity. A meaningful conversation once a week can create more longing than dozens of daily texts. Why? Because depth creates memory. Memory creates attachment. Attachment creates missing. This is why trying harder rarely works. Over-explaining, over-texting, over-checking in these behaviors come from fear, not confidence. And fear doesn't create emotional safety, it creates pressure. Men don't miss pressure, they escape it. But they miss peace, they miss warmth, they miss the feeling of being with someone who didn't need anything from them to feel whole. Emotional experiences also come from boundaries. When you respect your own time, your own emotions, and your own worth, the time he has with you feels intentional. Intentional moments carry weight. They become meaningful, and meaningful moments don't fade easily. This is why absence works only when presence mattered. Silence alone doesn't make a man miss you. Silence after emotional connection does. If there was laughter, vulnerability, and emotional clarity between you, your absence becomes loud. If there wasn't, your silence is just quiet. Men miss how you listened, how you responded, how you held space instead of demanding answers. They miss how you made life feel lighter, clearer, or more grounded. Those feelings become emotional fingerprints. They can't be replaced easily, so if you want to be missed, don't aim to be constant, aim to be impactful. Aim to create moments that feel real, calm, and emotionally honest. Because when communication fades, emotional experiences don't. They echo, and echoes are what make someone miss you long after the conversation ends. Over-availability kills longing because desire needs space to breathe. When someone has unlimited access to you, your time, your attention, your emotional energy, there is nothing left to anticipate, nothing left to wonder about, and nothing left to miss. Desire is not created through constant presence. It's created through meaningful presence followed by absence. Boundaries are not walls that push people away. They are structures that give connection shape, value, and depth. When you are always available, you unintentionally communicate that your time has no cost. And when something has no cost, it often loses perceived value. This doesn't mean people stop caring, but it does mean they stop being intentional. A man doesn't feel the urgency to pursue what is always within reach. Longing requires friction. It requires moments where he feels, I wish she were here right now. Boundaries introduce that friction in a healthy way. They create contrast when you choose when and how you show up rather than showing up all the time. You turn your presence into something that feels deliberate. Deliberate moments carry emotional weight. They feel special, and special moments linger. Over-availability often comes from fear of being forgotten, replaced, or misunderstood. But fear-driven connection never creates desire. It creates pressure. When a man feels pressure to constantly engage, respond, or reassure, his emotional system goes into defense mode. Instead of missing you, he feels monitored. Instead of longing for you, he feels overwhelmed. Boundaries remove that pressure and replace it with freedom. And freedom is attractive. Boundaries also signal self-respect. When you protect your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being, you show that you value yourself. Self-value is magnetic. A man may not consciously say, I desire her because she has boundaries, but he feels it. He feels that being with you requires intention, presence, and respect. And when something requires intention, it becomes meaningful. Desire grows in the spaces between interactions. It grows in the moments when he's reminded of you, but doesn't have immediate access to you. When you're always available, there's no room for his emotions to catch up. Men often realize what they feel in the absence, not in the moment. Boundaries allow him to process, reflect, and recognize what you bring into his life. This doesn't mean being distant, cold, or playing games. Boundaries are not silence used as punishment. They are consistency used as self-care. You respond when you genuinely want to. You make plans that align with your life. You say no without guilt. And you trust that the right connection won't disappear because you honored yourself. When boundaries are present, a man experiences you as grounded and secure. That security creates emotional safety, which deepens attraction. Ironically, when you stop trying to hold on so tightly, connection often grows stronger. Desire thrives when it's invited, not forced. Over-availability also blurs your individuality. When your life revolves around someone else, you become an extension of them rather than a whole person. Boundaries preserve your sense of self, and a woman with her own rhythm, passions, and priorities is far more intriguing than someone whose world pauses for a text message. A man misses what he can't take for granted. He desires what he has to choose. Boundaries turn you into a choice, not a convenience. They allow your presence to be felt and your absence to be noticed. In the end, longing isn't created by being everywhere. It's created by being unforgettable in the moments you choose to show up, and having the courage to step back when it's time. Boundaries don't reduce love. They refine it. Emotional independence is one of the most powerful yet misunderstood traits in attraction. It doesn't mean being cold, detached, or emotionally unavailable. It means your sense of worth, peace, and happiness does not depend on another person's attention, approval, or consistency. When a woman is emotionally independent, she sends a quiet but unmistakable message: "I choose you, but I don't need you to be whole." That message naturally increases both respect and curiosity in a man. Respect grows when a man sees that you can stand firmly on your own emotional ground. You don't collapse when he's busy. You don't panic when communication slows. You don't over-explain your feelings in hopes of being understood. Instead, you remain centered. This stability signals maturity and self-trust. Men instinctively respect people who trust themselves. It tells them that your presence is intentional, not desperate. Curiosity is born from mystery, and emotional independence creates healthy mystery. When your mood doesn't rise and fall with his behavior, he begins to wonder about you. He asks himself what fills your life, what excites you, and what gives you strength. You're not an open book written for his validation. You're a full story unfolding on your own timeline. That makes you interesting. Many people believe showing neediness creates closeness, but it often does the opposite. When someone depends emotionally on another, it places an unspoken responsibility on them. Men may feel pressure to maintain your happiness, reassure your fears, or regulate your emotions. Pressure reduces desire. Emotional independence removes that burden. Instead of feeling responsible for your emotional state, he feels free to choose you, and choice is far more powerful than obligation. Emotionally independent women don't chase reassurance. They observe behavior. If actions align with words, they relax into the connection. If they don't, she doesn't argue, convince, or cling. She adjusts her investment. This quiet discernment earns respect. A man recognizes that access to you is earned through consistency, not granted through potential. Curiosity also increases because emotional independence creates unpredictability in the best way. Not chaos, but authenticity. You don't react on impulse. You respond with intention. You don't rush to fill silence. You allow space. Space invites thought, and thought leads to emotional investment. He begins to think about you when you're not around because your emotional presence isn't constantly available on demand. Another reason emotional independence is so attractive is that it keeps the relationship balanced. When both people are emotionally self-sufficient, connection becomes a choice, not a lifeline. Conversations feel lighter, time together feels richer. There's no undercurrent of anxiety or fear of loss. This balance makes the bond stronger, not weaker. Emotional independence also shows that you have a life beyond the relationship. Your goals, friendships, passions, and routines exist regardless of his presence. That fullness is compelling. Men are naturally drawn to women who are already fulfilled because they represent growth rather than dependency. Being with you feels like an addition to his life, not a responsibility he must manage. Respect deepens when he sees that you won't abandon yourself to keep him. You won't tolerate disrespect just to avoid being alone. You won't silence your needs to preserve harmony. This doesn't make you difficult, it makes you grounded, and grounded people are trusted. Ultimately, emotional independence creates a dynamic where a man leans in emotionally instead of pulling away. He feels intrigued rather than overwhelmed. He respects you because you respect yourself. He becomes curious because there is depth to discover, not insecurity to manage. When you are emotionally independent, you don't ask to be valued. You naturally are. And that quiet strength is what makes a man both respect you deeply and wonder about you long after the moment passes. Being calm and secure makes you unforgettable because emotional peace is rare. In a world where many connections are driven by anxiety, overthinking, and emotional volatility, calmness stands out immediately. It doesn't demand attention, yet it holds it. A calm and secure presence doesn't try to impress or convince. It simply exists with quiet confidence. And that kind of energy leaves a lasting imprint. When you are calm, people feel safe around you. Emotional safety is one of the deepest human needs, yet it's often overlooked in conversations about attraction. A man may be drawn initially to excitement or intensity, but what stays with him is how he felt in your presence. If he felt relaxed, accepted, and free from emotional pressure, that feeling becomes unforgettable. Peace becomes the memory. Security means you trust yourself. You don't constantly question your worth or seek validation through reactions. You're not easily rattled by inconsistency, silence, or minor shifts in behavior. This steadiness sends a powerful signal: you are grounded. Men remember women who don't panic, who don't overreact, and who don't turn small moments into emotional storms. Calm shows emotional maturity, and maturity is deeply attractive. A calm and secure woman doesn't rush intimacy or force outcomes. She allows things to unfold naturally. This patience creates space for genuine connection. When nothing feels rushed or pressured, moments feel real. Real moments stick. They don't blur together or fade quickly. They stand out because they were experienced fully without emotional noise. Security also changes how you handle conflict. Instead of reacting defensively, you respond thoughtfully. You listen without interrupting. You express yourself without blame. This creates respect. Men may forget arguments filled with tension, but they remember the woman who handled difficult moments with grace. That grace becomes part of how they define you. Calmness also enhances mystery. When you're not constantly explaining yourself or reacting to everything, your presence feels composed and intentional. You don't need to fill every silence. Silence, when paired with calm energy, feels comfortable rather than awkward. Comfortable silence is rare, and rare experiences are unforgettable. Being secure doesn't mean being emotionless. It means you feel deeply without being controlled by your emotions. You can express joy, sadness, or disappointment without losing your center. This balance creates trust. A man trusts that being close to you won't cost him emotional chaos. Trust strengthens attachment, and attachment deepens memory. Another reason calmness is unforgettable is that it contrasts sharply with emotional volatility. Many people confuse intensity with passion, but intensity often fades quickly. Calmness endures. When someone has experienced drama repeatedly, peace feels revolutionary. A calm woman becomes the emotional baseline he compares others to, often without realizing it. Security also allows you to be present, truly present. You listen, engage, and respond without distraction from inner fears. Presence makes people feel seen, and being seen is unforgettable. Men may forget what was said, but they remember how deeply understood they felt. When you are calm and secure, you don't chase connection, you attract it. You don't need to be loud to be noticed or dramatic to be remembered. Your energy speaks before your words do. It lingers long after the interaction ends. In the end, being unforgettable isn't about being perfect or extraordinary. It's about being steady in a chaotic world. Calmness creates emotional safety. Security creates trust. And together, they create a presence that stays with someone not because it demanded attention, but because it offered peace. Walking away from confusion triggers reflection because clarity forces honesty and absence forces awareness. When a situation is confusing, it often means one person is giving mixed signals while the other is over-investing emotionally. Confusion keeps people stuck in a loop of overthinking, analyzing, and hoping. Reflection begins only when that loop is broken. Walking away doesn't create loss through drama, it creates loss through silence, and silence is where truth becomes unavoidable. When you stay in confusion, you teach the other person that uncertainty is acceptable. You adapt to inconsistency. You explain away behavior that doesn't align with words. In doing so, you remove any reason for the other person to reflect. Why would they question their actions if you continue to stay, adjust, and tolerate? Walking away interrupts that comfort. It removes the emotional cushion that allowed confusion to exist. Men, in particular, often process emotions after distance is created. While closeness can blur feelings, distance sharpens them. When you step away from confusion calmly and without accusation, it creates a psychological pause. That pause invites reflection. He begins to replay interactions, notice your absence, and recognize what changed. The lack of emotional access forces him to confront what he may have taken for granted. Walking away also shifts the power dynamic. Confusion thrives when one person is seeking clarity and the other is avoiding it. The moment you stop chasing answers, the dynamic changes. You are no longer asking to be chosen. You are choosing yourself. This shift often prompts a man to ask questions he avoided before, not because he was manipulated, but because the emotional environment changed. Reflection doesn't come from ultimatums or emotional outbursts. Those trigger defensiveness. Reflection comes from consequences experienced quietly. When you walk away with dignity, you don't attack his character or demand explanations. You simply remove yourself from a situation that doesn't feel right. That absence becomes a mirror. In it, he sees his actions more clearly. Confusion often allows a man to stay emotionally lazy. He can enjoy connection without commitment, attention without accountability. Walking away removes those benefits. When the rewards disappear, awareness begins. He starts to feel the weight of what he lost, not just you, but the comfort of access, validation, and emotional ease you provided. Importantly, walking away isn't done to provoke a reaction. It's done to protect your emotional health. That authenticity is what makes reflection possible. If leaving were a tactic, it would feel manipulative and likely fail. But when you genuinely choose clarity over chaos, the energy shifts. He feels the difference. Walking away also restores your self-respect. Confusion erodes confidence. It keeps you in a state of self-doubt, questioning your worth and intuition. By stepping away, you reaffirm that your emotional needs matter. That self-respect is palpable. Men often reflect more deeply when they realize they lost someone who respected herself. Reflection can take many forms. Sometimes it leads to growth and accountability. Sometimes it leads to regret. Sometimes it leads to silence. But regardless of the outcome, walking away ensures that you are no longer trapped in uncertainty. You gain clarity whether he does or not. The paradox is that by releasing the need for answers, you often invite them. By refusing to engage in confusion, you force reality to surface, and reality is where reflection lives. Walking away doesn't guarantee someone will come back changed, but it guarantees that you won't remain lost. And in that strength, you create the conditions for reflection both in him and in yourself. Self-worth is the ultimate attraction trigger because it shapes how you show up in every interaction. It influences what you tolerate, how you communicate, and what energy you bring into a relationship. Attraction doesn't begin with how you look or what you say. It begins with what you believe about yourself. When you genuinely value yourself, others feel it before you ever speak. A woman with self-worth doesn't ask to be chosen. She evaluates whether someone is worthy of her time. This subtle shift changes everything. Instead of trying to impress, she observes. Instead of overgiving, she reciprocates appropriately. This balance creates intrigue and respect. Men are naturally drawn to people who don't seek validation because confidence signals emotional strength. Self-worth creates boundaries effortlessly. You don't have to announce them or defend them aggressively. They show up in your behavior. You don't tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional neglect. When something doesn't align, you step back rather than chase. That restraint is powerful. It communicates that access to you is earned through consistent action, not words or potential. Attraction deepens when a man realizes you won't abandon yourself to keep him. Many relationships lose their spark because one person sacrifices their needs to maintain connection. Self-worth prevents this. You remain whole within the relationship. You don't shrink your voice, suppress your feelings, or accept less than you deserve. This wholeness is magnetic because it feels authentic and grounded. Self-worth also removes emotional urgency. You don't rush intimacy or cling to outcomes. You trust that what's meant for you will meet you with the same effort you give. This calm certainty reduces pressure, allowing attraction to grow naturally. Men feel more drawn to someone who is relaxed and self-assured than someone who is anxious about losing them. When you value yourself, you become emotionally selective. You invest where there is mutual interest and pull back where there is confusion. This discernment is attractive because it shows emotional intelligence. A man recognizes that being with you requires intention and respect. He senses that you are not easily replaceable, not because you try to prove it, but because you know it. Self-worth also influences how you handle rejection or distance. Instead of internalizing it as a flaw, you see it as information. You don't chase explanations or beg for closure. You accept reality and move forward. This response often leaves a lasting impression. Men remember the woman who left with dignity far more than the one who stayed at the cost of herself. Another powerful aspect of self-worth is that it makes your presence optional, not obligatory. You choose connection from a place of abundance, not fear. This freedom makes interactions lighter and more genuine. When someone knows you are with them because you want to be, not because you need to be, attraction intensifies. Self-worth also enhances emotional intimacy. When you are secure in yourself, you can be vulnerable without losing balance. You share openly but don't overshare. You express needs without demanding fulfillment. This emotional clarity creates trust, and trust strengthens attraction over time. Ultimately, self-worth is irresistible because it can't be faked. It's reflected in your posture, your tone, your patience, and your choices. It's felt in how you walk away from what doesn't serve you and how you welcome what does. You don't need to convince anyone of your value when you truly believe in it yourself. That belief shapes your energy, and energy is what attraction responds to most. When self-worth is present, attraction follows, not because you tried to trigger it, but because you embodied it.